In a small community where everybody knew everybody, nobody truly knew Amara. She was 15 years old, and she had already known more pain than most people carry in a lifetime. The people around her, her neighbors, her community, they didn't see potential when they looked at her. They saw poverty. They saw a problem. They saw nothing. But years later, those same people who had laughed at her, ignored her, and shut their doors in her face, would stand in that very same road, with tears in their eyes, waiting for her. This was home. Amara lived in a broken-down house at the very edge of the community, the kind of house the village seemed to have forgotten. Cracked mud walls. A rusted, leaking zinc roof. Torn fabric for curtains. Inside, there was almost nothing. A thin mattress on the bare floor. A small pot. 2 bowls. That was all. She lived here with her mother, a woman who had once been strong and full of laughter, but years of poverty and illness had worn her down to something fragile. Amara's father had left when she was only 6 years old. He walked out the door one morning and never returned. From that day, it was just the two of them. Every single morning, before sunrise, Amara made the 30-minute walk to the community well. She carried water back on her head, barefoot, on a rocky path that cut her feet. Then she would prepare whatever little food there was for her mother and set out to sell groundnuts or sachet water, anything to bring in small money for food and medicine. Many days she went hungry. She would save the last portion of food for her mother and pretend she had already eaten. She counted her coins carefully, looking at the medicine bottle beside her mother's mattress, and she always found a way to make it stretch. But at night, after everything was done, something remarkable happened. She studied. Every night, no matter how tired she was, no matter how little she had eaten, Amara opened her books and she studied. By the light of a small kerosene lamp, while her mother slept and coughed softly behind her, she read. When the flame flickered, she shielded it with her hands so it stayed alive. She kept reading. Because inside that girl who the world had given nothing, there was a dream that refused to die. The community Amara lived in was not a cruel place. But it could be a cold one, especially to the poor. At the market, the bread seller would look Amara up and down and wave her away with a flick of her wrist, not even looking at her properly, already turning to serve the next customer. Move from my front. You're blocking real customers. One evening, Amara's mother took a turn for the worse. Amara wrapped a cloth around her shaking shoulders and went door to door in her own community. She was not begging for money. She only needed a small loan, enough to buy medicine. Just one person to say yes. She knocked on door after door. Each one opened a crack, saw who was standing there, and closed again. I'm sorry. I can't help you. Try somewhere else. The door closed. Amara stood there for a moment in the darkness. She breathed. Then she turned and walked back home with nothing. At school, the words were sharper. She would sit alone under a neem tree, eating a small piece of plain bread she had saved from the morning, and the students who passed would laugh and whisper. There she is again, rat girl. Always eating alone. Her mother is sick and her father ran away. Amara heard every word. We could see it in her eyes, the sting of those words landing deep. She blinked once, slowly. Then she went back to eating. Quietly. Alone. And the older women of the community had a verdict too. They would watch her pass, carrying her water bucket, and shake their heads. That child will never become anything. She is her father's failure, running in her blood. Amara heard every word. She swallowed the pain like she swallowed hunger, quietly, completely, without showing anyone how deep it went. She squared her shoulders. She lifted her chin. And she kept walking. It was an ordinary Tuesday. The kind of day where nothing is supposed to happen. But God has a way of hiding turning points inside ordinary days. Amara was on her way back from the market, her groundnut tray nearly empty, a good day's work. She was tired but steady. Then she saw something ahead that stopped her. An elderly woman had collapsed at the side of the road. Her cloth bag had fallen open, her belongings scattered across the ground. She was conscious but dizzy, trying weakly to raise herself. People passed. A man slowed slightly, looked, and kept going. 2 women crossed to the other side of the road. No one stopped. But Amara stopped. She set her tray down carefully at the side of the road. She knelt beside the old woman without hesitation. She took the cap off her own small water bottle, the only water she had, and held it gently to the woman's lips. She fanned her with a cloth from her bag. She began gathering the old woman's scattered things, one by one, carefully. "Ma, I'm here. Don't worry. Take it slowly. I'm not going anywhere." The old woman's name was Mama Grace. She was a retired schoolteacher who had spent 40 years shaping young minds. She had seen thousands of students in her life. But something about this girl, this barefoot girl with the worn tray and the kind hands, something about Amara made her stop and truly look. As Mama Grace recovered, she asked Amara questions. Amara answered honestly and simply about her mother's illness, about a scholarship she had read about but had no one to guide her toward, about her dream to study and one day help other children like herself. There was no self-pity in her voice. Just truth. Amara didn't ask for anything. She didn't even try to explain how hard her life was. She simply answered. But in those answers, Mama Grace heard what the rest of the community had been too busy to notice. A brilliant, disciplined, deeply kind young woman, buried under poverty, waiting for one open door. 1 week later, there was a knock at Amara's door. Mama Grace stood there with a folder in her hand. She came inside, sat down with Amara and her mother, and laid a set of scholarship papers on the floor between them. She looked at Amara steadily, with quiet conviction, and she said, "This girl does not need pity. She has never needed pity. She needs an opportunity. And I am going to help her find one." Amara stared at those papers. Her eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of something she hadn't felt in a long time. The road ahead was long. And it was not gentle. Amara studied hard. She sat exams with her jaw set and her pen moving fast. She spent long nights in libraries, her notes cramped and careful. She worked weekend jobs, helping in shops, carrying supplies, and folded every coin she earned into a small envelope she kept hidden in her bag. There were nights when the doubt was louder than the dream. Nights when she was tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. Nights when the voice of that woman at the gate came back to her in the dark. "She will never amount to anything." But every time that voice came, Amara opened her notebook. She picked up her pen. She refused. Every single time she refused. She won the scholarship. She completed her education. She graduated with honors. And on the day she walked across that stage in her gown and cap, radiant, transformed, not by luck but by years of relentless quiet work, her mother sat in the front row. She was in a wheelchair by then, older and frail. But she was there. And she wept with a joy too big for words. Amara started small, the way all great things start. A small trading business. Long hours, careful decisions, honest work. She failed twice. She learned from both. She tried again. She reinvested every profit with discipline and patience. She did not rush. She did not cut corners. She simply kept going. By her mid-20s, Amara had built a company that employed dozens of people. She had become successful, genuinely, quietly, powerfully successful. And through every season of her rise, she had kept one promise to herself. She would never forget where she came from. The morning Amara came home, no one was expecting her. A clean, polished car moved slowly down the same dusty road she had once walked barefoot and hungry. It was not flashy, but it was real, and everyone knew it did not belong here. Children stopped playing. Women came to their doorways. An old man lowered his newspaper. The whole community went still. The car door opened. A woman stepped out. She was beautiful, but her beauty was not in the clothes or the car. It was in how she carried herself. Grounded. Present. She stood still for a moment and breathed in the familiar smell of morning fires and wet earth. The same road. The same dust. She had walked this road barefoot, hungry, invisible. And now she was back. Recognition moved through the community like a wave. The bread seller at her stall went still, her hand frozen over a loaf. The neighbor who had closed the door parted her curtains slightly, then stepped back into the shadow. The people who had mocked her were hushed now, stripped of every word they had ever said. They recognized her. And in their eyes, she saw what she had known she would find: shame. Disbelief. The quiet collapse of every verdict they had delivered about her life. Amara walked to her mother's house. The door opened before she reached it. Her mother, older, slower, but alive, stood in the doorway. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Amara walked into her mother's arms, and they held each other with the fullness of everything they had survived together. The whole community watched. Nobody spoke. Some were already crying. She did not make a speech. She did not raise her voice. She did not point at a single person who had hurt her. She simply held her mother, and let the silence say everything that needed to be said. Amara did not come back with a speech. She came back with a plan. In the days and weeks that followed, construction crews arrived. Foundations were dug. Walls went up. A new school was built for the community, with clean classrooms, new desks, books, and a chalkboard. Children in new uniforms filed through the doors for the first time, wide-eyed and quiet with wonder. Amara paid school fees for every child in the community whose parents could not afford them. She handed out school bags, new shoes, and stationery with her own hands, kneeling down to look each child in the eye, because she remembered exactly what it felt like to have a dream with no door to walk through. She opened a free health clinic so that no mother would ever again be turned away at a neighbor's gate when her child needed medicine. Her own mother was the first patient, seated in a clean room, receiving proper care from a real nurse, eyes closed, finally at peace. She repaired the broken water system so that no child would ever have to wake before sunrise and walk 30 minutes in the dark just to carry water home. She created jobs. Real jobs. Because she understood that dignity was not just about charity, it was about giving people the power to provide for themselves. And then, one afternoon, the bread seller approached her quietly, away from the crowd. She was holding the edge of her wrapper in both hands, nervous and ashamed. She opened her mouth to speak. Amara spoke first. "You don't need to say anything. I understand." The bread seller broke down. Amara took her hand, simply, warmly, and stood with her. She did not need a dramatic moment. She just held her hand. And that was enough. The same people who had called her rag girl now called her something else. They called her a blessing. And Amara did not help them because they deserved it. She helped them because she knew, better than anyone, what it felt like to be in pain and have no one reach back. Never look down on anyone. Not the child walking barefoot. Not the girl in the torn dress. Not the boy selling small things by the roadside with hunger in his eyes. You do not know, you cannot know, what God has placed inside them. Amara's beginning was painful. But her beginning did not write her ending. She was kind when the world was cruel. She was disciplined when life gave her every reason to give up. She rose, not by magic, not by luck, but by refusing, every single day, to become what the world said she was. Today's poor child may become tomorrow's greatest helper. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you never miss another story like this. And in the comments below, tell us, have you ever seen someone rise from nothing and become a true blessing to the people around them? We want to hear your story.